Today I'm going to be talking about my oldest brother, Richard Thomas, who played John Boy. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe and hit the like button, and feel free to leave a comment. I read them and I try to answer as many of them as I can. When we filmed The Homecoming, I had the biggest crush on Richard. I was 13, he was 20, and it was just, I thought he was so wonderful and just so admired him as an actor and as a person. I grew out of it by the time we started the series, and we were just good friends throughout the series, and I really missed him when he left because of the energy that he brought to the set, to any scene he was involved in. He was such a pro that he always gave 110%. You always knew that he was right there with you, no matter what scene you were doing. And he imbued John Boy with so much emotion and volatility and teenage angst and all the things that made John Boy so wonderful and really brought the whole story to life. Since the show was told from his point of view, he wore that very well. Richard was different than John Boy in a lot of ways. He grew up in New York as opposed to in a rural area. He was much more sophisticated, very well-read, very erudite, and a wonderful sense of humor, not nearly as angst-ridden as John Boy often was. He also loved things like Jimi Hendrix was one of his favorite recording artists in the 70s, and so he had much more broad taste than John Boy would have been exposed to in the 30s and 40s. And of course, many of you have probably seen Richard play very diverse roles. He's played psychopaths and a lot of tougher characters than someone would expect from having seen him on the Waltons. In season 1, we filmed The Easter Story, where John Boy teaches Mary Ellen how to dance, and then she teaches GW how to dance so that they can go to the dance. Richard, you may not know this, but his parents had a ballet company in New York while he was growing up. So Richard grew up around dance. His sister was a prima ballerina for many years. So Richard was a really good dancer. One time in real life, Richard and I attended some sort of a party, probably a Walton-related event, and we were dancing together, and he suddenly started moving a little differently. He had his hands behind his back. He was kind of just, moving around in a very different fashion. And I thought, oh, well, that's really cool, because he was such a good dancer. And then at the end, he leaned in, he said, I have to leave now. I've split the back of my pants, so I'm just gonna slide on out of here. I never told that story, and I didn't tell anybody at the party why he had to leave. So it's between all of us now. When the Waltons first started, Richard couldn't drive because he grew up in New York. So in that first season, the drivers on the set, the Teamsters, actually taught Richard to drive, and he got his license during the filming of the Waltons, because of course he had to be able to drive the truck and then his car and various other vehicles. Richard was quite a prankster. There was the time, of course, that he and Will mooned the tourists that came by the set when they were filming in Drusilla's Pond. There was another time when he and John Ritter were working together, and they would do all kinds of silly things, like they'd put something in their mouth that would then foam, and then they'd start foaming at the mouth as if they were rabid or something like that. They would try and crack each other up, but they were both such pros that it never affected the work. They were always able to do their job. But I loved being around when Richard and John Ritter were working together, because things were always at another level of humor around the set. There was one time when we were shooting a kitchen scene, and a lot of us were already on set, including crew, and as a prank against Richard, everybody had drawn a mole on their face. Various sides. They didn't necessarily match up to the side that Richard's mole was on. And then we just kind of with straight face waited till Richard came in and started looking around and realizing everything that was going on. And he took it in the spirit that it was meant and had a good laugh out of it. There was another time when Richard had a dressing room on the stage, on the sound stage. I don't know how he did it, but one of the crew members that was a good friend of Richard's had somehow put this giant stuffed moose that was on a rolling bed in his dressing room, and the door wouldn't even close. It was so big, and it was a small dressing room. And so when he went to go to his dressing room and open the door, there he was confronted with this huge moose head, like right there in his face. And again, he had a great sense of humor, and it just completely cracked him up. In more recent years, I've had a chance to go visit Richard when he has been doing stage productions and have seen him do some wonderful work on stage. A few years back, I went down to San Diego to see him do a show called Camp David. And after the show, I went and spent some time with him between the matinee and the evening performance. And as he was walking me back to my car when I was leaving, we reflected about our time on the Waltons and how grateful we were for the show, what it brought to us both personally and professionally, how much we loved each other and the entire cast and how special that was. And just our amazement at what the show has come to mean to us and to every person who's watched it over the years. So thank you. We really do appreciate all of you who have kept the show alive for all these years. For the cast, we will always have our memories, and we will always have this second family that we share together. But you become part of our extended family and continue to breathe life into what the show has meant and what it still means with all the wonderful values that it brings, especially in today's world. So thank you. If you're enjoying these videos, please do subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. I'm going to continue to bring more behind the scenes about the cast, some of the episodes, and some of the other things that went on in general during the filming of the Waltons. I'll see you next time.